You're watching Cobb County's Government Access Channel, TV 23.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Lewis, and welcome to Spotlight on Cobb, a weekly news program updating on events happening in Cobb County government and your community. Chattahoochee Technical College recently hosted a ribbon cutting for the new Student Center at North Metro campus. The new center provides a centralized building entrance with bold Chattahoochee Tech lettering that can be seen from Interstate 75. Here's Chattahoochee Tech President Ron Newcomb with more.
We're celebrating having a ribbon cutting ceremony today here to celebrate the creation of a new front entrance to this North Metro campus and a student center. This campus here was built in 1988, opened in 1989, and originally we never had what we'd call a front entrance to the campus. We had a big tall architectural symbol here and a berm and there was landscape, but when you sent people to the campus you never could quite tell where's the front entrance to the campus. And a student center, years ago, a decade or more ago, we had to do away with the student center because we needed it for instructional classrooms. Well, finally, both those have been overcome. We've got this brand new entrance that is so clearly visible. It's beautiful. It's very attractive.
I'm not going to Disney yet.
And inside, we've got a modern, state-of-the-art student center that really is a pretty cool place to hang out. So today we're having a ribbon cutting to take note of this important addition. Well, I'm very proud because as you can see, just the students hanging around here on a college campus is so important for students to have some sense that there's some place on the campus they can go and just hang around, whether it's to be talk to each other or read a book or pull up their laptop or just chill. And so having this student center available to them is an important part of our community life here on the college. And to have this, which by the way, that sign lights up very nicely at night. It can be seen passing by in the interstate. That's very nice. But it's a very proud feature. So I've been here since July 1 of 1988 on this particular campus, and so it's something that in hindsight probably should have been done way back, but the architectural feature was the right call then, but this is the right call now. We have 8 campuses. In the 6-county area that we serve, we've got 8 campuses. So I would say the answer to that is whichever community you live in, whether it's Austell or Marietta or out in East Cobb or Dallas or up to Woodstock, Canton, Jasper, any of the 8 campuses, you just give them a shout and they would be pleased to help you. And of course you can always find us online. But everybody needs to come to one of our campuses, take a look around, and they will find that we're a first choice, smart choice, as a proud place to be and to graduate from and to go on either to workforce or to further education.
The annual Diaper Day event is on the horizon, and we spoke with organizers to tell us more.
Well, we're so excited. This will be our 4th annual Diaper Day, October 29th at 5 o'clock on the square. We will have enough diapers that will be taller than the stage, and that's always a great sight for everyone participating. So we're very excited. We have help from churches, we have help from schools. Of course, many of our corporations are collecting diapers, our small businesses are collecting diapers, the city government is collecting diapers. It's always so heartwarming to know that we live in the most generous county there is.
I'm a member of Junior League Cobb County, Marietta, and we saw the video Cobb Diaper Day in September of last year. And it really hit me hard. I had been a single parent before of small children, but it never entered my mind that I would never be able to afford diapers. And so I came up with the idea. My 50th birthday was coming around. I have everything I need. My family's healthy. My children are wonderful. on their own, and I just didn't need anything. So I asked my family to donate diapers for Cobb Diaper Day. Friends, family, co-workers, and I came up with 1,200 diapers for Cobb Diaper Day. Yeah, and it was a wonderful moment. It really was, to be able to donate that much. But also, when I delivered the diapers, I had a homeless woman come up to me, and she had a little baby strapped on her chest and a little girl holding her hand, and she asked me if they were giving out diapers that day. And I said, I don't know, but we'll find out. She had no place to sleep, they had no food, and of course diapers were in the forefront of her mind, but she wasn't going to ask anybody for it. So I took her over to the tables where they were handing out and collecting diapers, and we got her taken care of that day. And I saw firsthand what our community is doing for those in need. It truly was an amazing experience.
Last year, I was having some problems. I just got a new job, and I came up to get some because I was waiting for my paychecks, and I was in between paychecks, and being able to get groceries and clothes for the baby. So they helped me a lot because I needed some help with diapers, so they helped supply them for me, and it really helped ease the troubles that we were going through at the time and the struggles. So it really helped a lot. I think the babies are important because they can't fend for themselves, so it's awesome that people come together and they help families and support them and help them through hard times. Right now is very important for help like that. So
we started off with MUST and camp down in South Cobb, and then I found out that the Center for Family Resources gives out diapers, and they leave their shelves just as fast as MUST and camp. We also want to help reconnecting families and the YWCA. So for the last couple of years, we've had these 5 agencies. They do such great work. They don't turn people away. They help in any way they can. So we're going to do it again.
Recently, 2 teachers, one from Marietta School System and one from Cobb School System, left their marks on the Marietta Square. During the 24th Annual Handprint Unveiling ceremony, Dr. Richard Kaht, Dickerson Middle School science teacher, and David Dubois, Marietta High School educator and band director, were celebrated and honored for their contributions as educators at their respective schools. Parents, students, fellow teachers, and the community all came out to show their support. The Handprint Unveiling ceremony is one of many events scheduled in October to recognize Teachers of the Year. Cobb Fire recently hosted a trench rescue training class for the Georgia Search and Rescue Task Force 7. The training was conducted over 3 days near McCullum Airfield.
Trenching would be any kind of construction where they're making excavations into the ground, and Cobb County, like other metro areas, has a fair amount of construction that takes place, and unfortunately with that construction there's oftentimes accidents that occur. If somebody does have that unfortunate incident and they're trapped or buried inside of a construction trench, then we're charged with going and getting them out and hopefully saving a life. What we've got behind us, this is the Metro Atlanta Task Force 7 GSAR. This is a group of several different counties and cities from around the metro area, and we do technical rescue, and Cobb County is providing training this week for Task Force 7 in the area of trench rescue. So what we're doing this week actually is digging the trenches, and we're simulating a trench collapse. And they're placing the protective systems, and it consists of basically a system of panels and air shores or pneumatic shores, which are like big pipes. And in a nutshell, what we would do is come in and place these panels and then keep them in place with the air shores to keep any further collapses from occurring and creating a safe area that our guys can go into the trench and dig somebody out that may be buried. I've been with the technical rescue team now for about 5 years. We do a lot of training. We try to hit all the different disciplines at least a couple of times a year. So if you're part of the technical rescue team, you do a lot of training, and the purpose for that training, of course, would be to make sure that we're ready to protect the citizens of Cobb County and we can respond as soon as we're called.
For more information about Cobb Fire, including career opportunities, visit cobbfire.org. TV23 caught up with the Water System's Kathy Wynn and got some advice for the changing of seasons.
So it's about to be fall, and fall means we need to be making some decisions about landscaping. And a couple of things that we need to consider. It is, for those of us with fescue lawns, time to consider aeration and overseeding. It's best if that happens toward the end of September or early October. That's the growth phase for fescue, and this is really going to maximize any inputs that you put on the ground for your fescue, like fertilizer or pesticide. So it's best to make sure you're using a hollow core aerator and go over your entire yard, first vertically, then horizontally. And the best thing, leave those cores out in your yard. Don't scrape them up. They're going to decompose into the yard. But you need that aeration in order to maximize your fescue because of the Georgia red clay that we have here and the warm, hot, dry summer we've had. That's really going to revive your fescue and make it as hardy as we can for its growing season. For those who don't have fescue, there's a couple of things you need to keep in mind. We tend to think of spring as the time to plant, but really the best time to plant is fall. So if you're planning to have new shrubs or bushes or a big installation done, fall is really the best time to do it. You can install now. It'll use less input of water because it's not as hot, and it will have all winter to establish that deep root system that we appreciate, that makes it a hardy, healthy plant. So think about planting in the fall, not in the spring. And lastly, I know you set your irrigation system at the beginning of the summer, but it's always time to readjust. It needs less water in the fall when there's not as much heat and the days are shorter, and it also needs significantly less water in the winter, and prepare your systems to winterize. If you have trouble programming your irrigation controller, we still have help for you. Visit cobbwater.org and you can download our Sprinkle Times app that'll give you an irrigation system schedule that adjusts for the seasons.
TV23 recently had the pleasure of sitting down with Faye DeMassimo and Jim Croy to find out more about the alternatives analysis study. Here's Robert with more.
Thanks, Tiffany. You know, a lot of people have had interest in this alternatives analysis study, which was recently announced here in Cobb County. On set with us now is Cobb DOT Director Faye DeMassimo and Jim Croy of Croy Engineering. Thank you both for being with us. Now, I immediately threw something out there at AA. Now, what exactly is an AA study?
Alternatives analysis is a study that allows us to look at a corridor and look at all the different alignments within that corridor, the different mode opportunities. In other words, what's the best way for us to meet the transportation needs in that corridor, both in terms of the corridor, the alignment that we follow, and what kind of technology should we use to meet what the problem is with the best solution.
Now, the Board of Commissioners just a few weeks ago had a chance to get some details on this and see it rolled out, and this is what we're going to do for our viewers. Now, tell me, what was the result? What was the outcome of the study?
The outcome of the study was a bus rapid transit project along the 41 corridor that would travel from the Kennesaw State area across and down 41 down to the Cumberland area, and then from Cumberland down to the Art Center Station. In addition to that, there's a companion project that would be Express Bus that would be in the I-75 corridor and would use the new managed lane project that's about to be under construction here soon. And we'll take those managed lanes all the way down, and then the HOV lane system all the way down again into the Art Center Station.
Now, Jim, your firm, I think, led a team of professionals that took a look at this. What led to this outcome, and how does that work in Cobb County, into the future?
Well, the team was made up of professionals in a lot of different disciplines, not only the civil engineers, which my firm is, but we had people involved in the environmental side, the modeling of which is future projections of ridership and use, the civil side as far as costing, land use experts, economic and experts. All that went into how, as well as some surveying folks that did some surveys of public opinions during the process. So all those different disciplines come in to look at how we can meet certain objectives. And as the director said, some of the objectives we thought we met was providing quick peak hour service. In other words, that's service for people who want to travel primarily from point A to point B during the work hours of the morning work trip in the morning and the evening work trip in the PM. And we met that objective with the express service on I-75. As the other companion project on US 41 meets other objectives. It gets the trip-to-trip service between the activity centers. It meets the reverse commute. There is a sizable ridership that comes from Atlanta into Cobb County every day, primarily to work, as a work trip. It meets that demand, which Express necessarily doesn't meet because Express is a one-way service, primarily south in the morning, north in the evening. So the reverse commutes can met, and then that connectivity up and down the corridor. We have some major activity centers. If you got just the universities along the line is Kennesaw State University, Southern Polytech, Life College, and then you get on in and connect into Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Savannah College of Art and Design. All those are within this study corridor. So a big opportunity to come together and look at how we can serve those objectives of providing ridership in a way that people will actually use, because the best service is one that people actually will use.
Absolutely. Now, Faye, BRT, Bus Rapid Transit, what does that look like? I've never seen the vehicle. How does that work? How does it interface with the passengers? Where do they get on?
Sure. A bus rapid transit vehicle is still a bus. It's still a rubber-tired vehicle, but it's much larger, so it has a larger capacity, and oftentimes it's an articulated vehicle. That is, it looks like it's got a center section that actually enables it to make turns and so forth in a very flexible
for us Georgia
way.
grads. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then the other thing that's very unique about it is very similar to a train. You know, when you get on a bus now, one of our Cobb Community Transit buses, you step up into the bus. With the BRT buses, often the platforms are level with the bus entryway, so that you are stepping right onto it just like you would step onto a train or the monorail, a monorail type system like you would see at Disney.
Right. Because, I'll see buses occasionally now that when they stop, the bus will actually lower itself down, and I assume that makes it, one, easier for the general passenger, but also for maybe those with disabilities
Absolutely.
as well. Now, what are the advantages of having, are you going to have like stations up and down Cobb Parkway? Is that how that would work?
We are in the Cobb Parkway corridor. There's about 20 stations planned. And again, as Jim mentioned earlier, these are all planned around the activity centers, places where people are trying to go to and from along that corridor. So some of the stations will be very simple stations, almost platforms and not much more. Other stations, however, will be more sort of fit in with a neighborhood, fit in with a retail area, for example, or even a station that could be pretty grand that would be serve that area around the Cobb Galleria, the Performing Arts Center, and so forth. So you're going to have lots of different station types that will be intended to fit in with the community around them, all up and down that corridor. And again, keep in mind, as Jim mentioned earlier, that's to provide a lot of connectivity, so more stops, more stations. On the 75 corridor, we're only looking at potentially about 3 stations, and that would really be to serve at the areas where we have park and ride lots, and we have areas where we're gathering in those commuters, giving them that quick trip from home to work.
Jim, it seems like, especially during this process and other studies that I've seen, the most frequent criticism is, are you going to be able to fill it up? Will there be enough riders on it, or is it going to ride empty? And, of course, folks who do studies are quick to come back with, here's our estimated ridership. Where do you guys get those numbers from?
Well, I mentioned earlier, one of the expertise that was brought into the system was folks that will do what we call modeling. And basically modeling is taking a set of criteria, numbers, and projecting what it would be into the future. And then you can take those models over time and look at your results and see how accurate your predictions are over time. And they've been able to do that with these. So you take general data for the region. You know where people live. You know where people work. You know some of the economic development trends within certain areas that will be job producers or residential producers. So all that data goes into the consideration of the model. Then these folks make projections based on what we know today and what some of the trends have been, what would be in the future. And when we talk about numbers in the alternative analysis, it was all the year 2040 numbers. So the model is projecting numbers out to the 2040. So, you know, it's done with ability to objectively look at trends, make predictions, and use models that have been calibrated based on previous experience. So they know the projection techniques give reasonable expectation of accuracy.
The approaches that we use to do that as well all meet the national standards, the federal standards required for doing that. One of the things that was interesting about that is that we were able to take what's the projected ridership for this particular project and compare it to other projects that are already in operation in other parts of the country that are similar to ours. We were also able to compare it to the traffic volumes, which is a very comparable metric, average daily traffic, ADT, be able to compare that to the ridership. And what we found, particularly for Cobb County citizens, is that if you've ridden the roadway that's the Windy Hill extension, this project would enable us to carry more people than that, more trips than that is able to carry. For example, it will be very comparable, somewhat less than, but very comparable to the kind of impact that we expect to be able to see with the managed lane project on the 75 corridor when it's implemented. And it's very similar to other very successful transit projects similar to it around the country, both in Charlotte and in Phoenix, in terms of its ability to attract and provide service to riders.
Jim, when I imagine how this is going to look, and I come down 41 to go to work. Am I going to be in my car in a couple of years jockeying for position with a big old BRT articulating in the middle, or does it have its own special lanes?
Well, one of the key points that we found out when we started looking at some of the projections and some of the other areas where either bus rapid transit or light rail transit or even heavy rail transit, one of the key elements that was the portion what we call a fixed guideway. That means that these vehicles will be running in a dedicated lane, a fixed guideway. In this case with BRT, it'd be a bus lane, or they would be sharing a lane in the HOV, but it still would be separated, or the managed lanes, but it would still be separated from the general purpose traffic that's going up and down 41. So if you were on US 41 at the time, you would more likely these would be bus lanes in the median of US 41. That way they don't there's no issues interacting with driveways and things like that. And there would be particular areas where you could cross like you would any other median divided highway. So hopefully the buses, the folks who would be using the BRT would be moving along at a speed certainly competitive or hopefully quicker than at least in the peak hour of the peak hour traffic. One of the key things we also looked at in 41, looked at a couple of different opportunities of how we deal, challenges of how we deal with the busy intersections. Some of the intersections, we will grade separate. In other words, the bus fixed guideway, the bus lane will either fly over or tunnel under particular intersections. So there's no disruption to the vehicle traffic as well as the timing of the BRT traffic. Others we will what we call signal preemption. In other words, as the BRT vehicle approaches a particular intersection, the signal would recognize that BRT bus is coming, and the timing would change to allow the bus to travel basically straight through. Which would also benefit the traffic running in the general purpose lanes too, because they're running right beside it. But some of the busier intersection we would grade separate. I think depending on what the final alignment is, we're looking at 10 to 12 of the major intersections on US 41 to be grade separated. The others will be signal preempted, and even areas where you have median breaks. Where people would need to cross at certain areas, non-signalized, those would also have some type of signal system so that somebody wanting to cross the bus fixed guideway would know a signal that a bus is either coming or not coming. And so all that's done in a very safe and signalized manner.
Gotcha. So Faye, how quick are we going to see these buses on 41 and 75? When do we get there? How do we get there?
Well, one of the things that we're doing, next steps, is any time that you may be seeking federal funding at some point in the future, you have to go through an environmental assessment or an environmental documentation process. We were fortunate that we already have the funding in place for that. That process has already begun, take about 18 months or so. So in about 1.5 to 2 years, when that is complete, the Board of Commissioners will have the opportunity to view all of this information, evaluate all this information. There will be a very robust public outreach process that will be occurring all during that period of time, and then make a decision about whether they'd like to proceed forward with seeking federal funds to implement the project.
Now, in this environmental study, is that where they look for the red-winged hogger dodger, trying to, these are kind of the issues they're working on as well?
It is, but actually, in this particular corridor, in either of these particular corridors, 75 or 41, you don't see too many of the bugs and bunnies type of stuff. What you do see are things about air, noise, other kind of human impacts, and so forth. Impacts to businesses and those kinds of things. So we want to be looking all along that corridor and see what are all of the different human and natural impacts that may occur, and figure out how are we going to address those things. One of the things that we were able to address early on is, of course, any of these projects, any of the alignments that we looked at involved a crossing of the Chattahoochee. There's probably not a more sensitive resource anywhere in the region. And we have had great meetings with both the Riverkeeper and the National Park Service. And by looking at using the existing bridge, the existing 75 bridge, we believe that, again, we've come up with a way to be able to, again, focus on using that existing infrastructure, so we're being both as cost effective, but also very prudent with all of the resources that the taxpayer dollars have already gone to put out there. How can we get every bit of capacity out of those in order to give people a better travel experience?
Excellent. And if somebody wants to keep up with your progress, I assume it's the Cobb DOT website. Anything else?
Absolutely. That's all.
Okay, good. Well, thank you all for being with us. I hope to have you back maybe when we get closer to getting this environmental wrapped up. We update our viewers and let them know what's happening as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Robert.
Back to you, Tiffany.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Spotlight on Cobb. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.